This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next is the approval of September 3rd work session. This was budget work session minutes, just an attachment of the video.
I move to approve that.
Second.
Well, there's not really a correction to the video. So call the vote.
Aye.
Okay. And on to September 4th. That's also work session with video as attached.
I'll move to approve that one.
Second.
No additions or corrections to video. All right, Corey,
Aye.
September 5th.
I move to approve minutes from September 5th meeting.
Second.
Additions, corrections.
Yeah.
Aye.
September 12th.
I move to approve the September 12th minutes.
Aye. Yeah, second.
Additions or corrections. Corey,
Aye.
September 18th. Work session.
I'll move to approve that.
Second.
Additions or corrections. All right, Wei.
Aye.
Aye.
And September 26th.
I move to approve September 26th meeting minutes.
Second.
Additions or corrections. Corey,
Aye.
on to department reports. Karen's not here this evening. She submitted a written. Any questions for Karen? So at that, once we have commission, we're going to have to do an appointment for the library board commission seat to library board. Commission representative, that's. You have law enforcement's written. Any questions for John?
I was curious what the panhandling charge was. The welfare / panhandling charge on 920.
We'll check with that and have a response. Okay. Any others? If that's a state code, is that what you're asking?
That was just what it said. It said there was a welfare / panhandling charge. Well,
Complaint, but doesn't say.
complaint. Yeah, I'm just curious what constituted panhandling.
Looks like it was a sheriff's department.
Was it?
No, actually, I didn't even check.
Yeah, the 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sheriff department.
Okay, I'll check on it. Any others? All right, Public Works. Eric, you're up.
I don't really have anything else. I had what was in my report.
You have questions?
Where are we
Or
at
you go to the,
with the Lions Club Park stuff?
So we have to fix some asphalt and that'll be that.
Okay.
That's where we're at. That's scheduled probably next week, whether we're gonna mill it right or replace it. We need a valley and 2 inches on the sidewalk. That'll be that. But other than that, all the new mains in.
did you be up?
I did not submit a written one, but I went to the Supreme Court Clerks Conference in Helena for 3 days. It was good. Then I came back and caught up from here, and then I went to the planning conference in Lewistown, and it was amazing. Lots of great speakers, lots of great information. They did it, lots of times you could pick from 3 tracks. So unfortunately, there was a lot of times 2 good things going on at the same time. You had to pick, but it was really good. It's a long ways up there, but I don't have any new information on the Slade Avenue property. I believe she's gone. I've provided her with all the annexation paperwork. And so I don't know what route she's going, and I think Eric's been in touch with her, but I'm not sure. No. I did 1 RV compliance letter, 1 sign permit, 2 fence permits. I sent out second notices for jury questionnaires to the people that hadn't sent them in. And there's 91 cases in court.
Is that a lot?
It can be. I don't know how to average it. I don't know. When we had 2 officers, of course, we got lots more. Any other questions?
Do you want to go back, Karen, since you're, they didn't have any questions for you, but.
I don't have much to report. Hello. The only thing that I just want to pass on, we had a resignation, a board member moved out of town. We have an opening. It'll be in this week's edition, and we'll be openly soliciting volunteers for a library board member. And that's all I have. Any questions?
What are the requirements? Do they have to live in town or?
No, nope. It's a county-wide. So it is we do ask that this person lives on this side of the county, since that's our general user base, but we fulfill obligations throughout the county, so that's not absolutely required.
So that was president position, right?
That was
Or
our board chair. Yes. So the board has nominated Judy Frey to take over that position. She accepted, and yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Ginger?
Any questions?
Kevin on.
When did you put this on the shared drive?
It was late today.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I didn't see it till just now. But
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to claims. You're
Oh,
official.
okay, I thought there was just that one question I had, but Ginger answered it on water meters, why we're buying more water meters. I thought we had plenty, but
Not all the way yet. And new buildings have to purchase.
It was the inch and a half. So
Oh.
they came in.
The big one.
Ordered back. I think, gosh, Eric, how long ago did you order those inch and a half meters?
It took about a year. They're hard to get hold of. That's for the new grocery store and housing and also Sportsman's Lodge.
so what was in there as a water meter up until now?
They're being estimated, I believe.
Yep. All right, public comment on non-agenda item. Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
because officially.
yeah, I'll move to approve claims.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment on non-agenda items.
Myron Walmo, taxpayer, resident of Ennis, Montana. Now that the reprieve was exercised and the dust continues to settle, it's time to see what direction the community is going to head in. Although the attorney advised the mayor and a town employee that the procedure was necessary to be a contract, the advice was ignored and proceeded in a direction that previous mayor had proceeded. Following multiple wrongs do not make a right. During this fiasco, the mayor, with the aid of the town employee, leaped on a campaign that has divided the community in many ways. Posting personal opinions on a town of Ennis government website is disingenuous and unprofessional. The leadership should have informed and advised this employee of using a personal account and not an account that entailed the government of this community as a whole. I, for one, did not agree with this post, and through the lack of leadership has not been addressed. This post had to follow up reading a boatload of letters addressed to the mayor, along with the town clerk, are also disingenuous and unprofessional. The letters written by the town employee claiming that the town commission is promoting a hostile environment. Just to emphasize, the town commission has a life outside of these four walls, and these letters are addressing outside activities that some are classified as secret. Not very secret if they are being addressed in these letters. Consequently, the letters are nothing more than insinuations and innuendos, but bordering on stalking. The letters are harassing with veiled threats that the failed leadership allows on multiple occasions. The multiple newspaper articles are a distressing development with a one-sided version of what is really occurring in our community. So to put some clarity and try to close this division in the community, the mayor should address this problem with an apology letter and a newspaper article about what really happened. through a forced error made by the mayor, aided with a town employee. The problem did not involve the town commission or the citizens of this fine community, but would never have happened if the town code had been followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next call for public comment on non-agenda items. Anything from online on public comment on non-agenda items? Last call for public comment on non-agenda items. Closing public comment on non-agenda, on to unfinished business. So the lead service line inventory.
Oh, that was submitted Monday afternoon. So it is in the very minimal, less than 5 to be returned, which I think has, they start leaving for the winter, it'll be real quick. Should be good.
So how many, did you get everybody?
Pretty close. We're like less than 5 right now.
Good job.
But I think, like I said, as we start turning water off for the snowbirds to leave, those are going to be real easy to grab real quick.
Because if there's like a continuation as far as what I understood, if we didn't, all the towns that don't have that complete inventory done, they actually have to send out a monthly letter to each one of those that has not been identified
So
until they're,
we're trying at all
resolved.
costs to avoid that, you know.
because that can add
From
up in
getting
a hurry
done.
too. Sheriff's MOU committee update. Do you want to check? So I spoke with Mr. Guza after attending the Montana League of Cities and Towns Conference in Yellowstone. Thomas Jourdain from the league presented a PowerPoint and what the league has thus far broken down as far as requirements for law enforcement in municipality. And then there was discussion amongst multiple municipalities as to how their contracts are running. Thomas is still working on a complete spreadsheet of how those contracts are looking as far as, is it just dispatch service? Is it an hourly wage? Is it how much of them are covering town ordinance is another discussion on that, or is it just Montana code? And then distance from their dispatching centers. Those are all kind of factoring in. Mr. Guza was going to be in contact with him to update on his clients, us as ours, and then get that presentation as well. So as the league stands, they are holding with the Montana code that says that every municipality is required. It's more of a, I think it's in the Attorney General opinion, required to have a police chief. So that's where it's at. So I spoke with Ed, he was going to get with Thomas, and then we could, once he got all the information from Thomas, revisit where we were at. So I spoke with him Monday. That's what I know. Thomas hasn't made that available yet. And as soon as he does the whole presentation, then I'll get it to you, because it also has like how you fund whichever way you do your contract, your additionals. There's multiple ways of funding municipal police, but some of them are very complicated and long. And if they don't go through the public process correctly, then they're not approved. And if they don't get approved, then you have to wait a year. So there's a lot of stipulations in how you do those. Ms. Roberts.
Lisa Roberts, thank you for taking my public comment on this important issue. the people of Ennis deserve to have an open and honest conversation about their law enforcement options, and I'm glad to hear that there are avenues being talked about. Um, the Ennis Police Department has worked to prevent this conversation from happening and attacked anyone who has advocated for having the conversation, myself included. Um, they were targeting current and now former commissioners who simply want to ask these same important questions and resolve this important issue. So I would stress to the commission that when these options are available, that it is in an open and transparent process as to what is decided. Thank you.
Any other comment? My backup is not online. I did not see him. So next is actually Resolution 609, which I think my wires got crossed with Kevin Agard of Great West. He sent us a resolution to adopt, which you can't do until you go through public hearing. So this is the full floodplain situation. I don't see Kevin online, so I will try my very best to explain where we are at. So in 2022, the county went through a new floodplain map. All the hearings were held by DNRC in the county. And then as that map was redone, I believe there were 9 properties where it changed the floodplain for them, either in or out. Some became part of the floodplain. Some came out of the floodplain, including the town's park is now in the floodplain, which I guess I always assumed it was, considering how much fun we've had in the park over the years. So then the next requirement is that a town adopts ordinance to administer that floodplain. And it is a FEMA requirement for that to be done. If you do not adopt those, then you may be sanctioned by FEMA. I received a letter on September 19th saying that the deadline for it is now December 20th. So the ordinance that is in your folder as a draft was what I had budgeted for when talking with Jerry Grabentz in June. It is the same ordinance, same verbiage as the county is going by, and it's the same that our current neighbor Twin Bridges is looking at as well. The only option that you can do from there, that's like the bare minimum to meet requirements from FEMA. Past that, you may add more strict. I instructed Great West at this time not to add more strict because we are at a timeline, and before we can even go through public hearing, it first has to go back to the DNRC for their review, which is exactly the same as the counties and FEMA, and those two have already been back, reviewed and checked and approved. So we figured this is the way that we could meet our deadlines because we have to hold a second public hearing before November 20th to adopt. And then if you feel like there's more that you want to add, you may do so after the point. I asked of examples of more strict, and that would be like very specific infrastructure that's not allowed in the floodplain. The example that was given was like you don't build a police department there, no fire departments, hospitals, things like that. Cemeteries is another more strict one, which again, some of these things I assumed you just didn't put in a floodplain because you need your emergency services if something happens, and cemeteries I thought was a given. But so there's certain things you can add, but then later they still have to be approved through the process, sent in, reviewed, gone back. I did have Guza look at it Monday. He said it looked very much in line with what is required. has all the federal standard numbers in there and whatnot. So I wanted to have the discussion of, that's why it's kind of where it's at, is it's a time crunch, and without it, there's the risk of some of our constituents not being able to get insurance.
So we have to approve this for it to go back to DNRC, and then we can have a public hearing?
Yeah, you have to have the two public hearings for floodplain. What? The public hearings, you have to have two public hearings. And then on the second one, you do the resolution to adopt. We've always done, as far as the last 3 years, we've done a resolution of intent before we ever entered any public hearing saying, this is what we're intending to do. It was kind of like a precursor, but the resolution that he sent me was a resolution of adoption. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. So that resolution is not a resolution of intent, it's of adoption. So, and you can't adopt until you hold public hearing.
So we really can't vote on it tonight? Okay.
But I wanted you to be able to kind of understand the process and where we're at. If you have questions on 61 pages of awesomeness, call Kevin.
Was he not gonna speak?
He's going to be here on for the public hearings. But if you have any questions ahead of time, there's him, Jerry at Great West, and then Courtney is also helping as well, and she was the floodplain administrator for Red Lodge in 2022. So I spoke with all of them at conference as well to kind of get where we're at, and then I spoke with Shiley and Tracy at the DNRC too. They're very worried about our timeline. So that's what I know. So if there's any public questions, feel free to email them to me and I will get answers from Kevin. I will not at any point say that I am a floodplain expert. I think this has been more complicated than I originally gave it credit for. So.
But he will be here for the public hearing?
Yes.
Explain everything in engineering speak.
Yep. All right. On to Madison Valley Medical Center.
Hi, my name is Tanya Gustafson. I'm the Executive Director of the Madison Valley Medical Center Foundation. We are seeking the Commission's approval to allow the mayor to sign our Community Block Development Planning Grant. We submitted one in March that was declined. We were educated that it's very competitive and got some pointers on how to improve. But for the medical center, we are seeking assistance from professional engineering groups and architectural groups to help us evaluate our systems and our space usage. As we continue to grow, we are running out of space rapidly and our systems are aging. So we need this, we would like to pursue this to get more expert plans on how to address our needs. This is a up to $50,000 grant from the state that comes out of the Community Block Development Planning Funds. And our foundation would be matching up to $12,500 to support this. It does need to be sponsored by the city, so we're asking for your official sponsorship of it and to allow the mayor to sign the proper documents.
So we're not currently applying for any grants that are going to be conflicting with this?
So if you remember when Craig was here for our original CDBG grant hearing, when he broke down the different sections of it, we are applying for we're not applying for the planning portion of a CDBG. So it's a different, one of those different blocks. There was the age specific, the planning, and then the general. And it continues to be exceptionally competitive.
Are there any other questions that I can answer?
So do we need a motion on that?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do this one, Corey, or you want me to?
As soon as I find it, I think I have okay. I move to approve Madison Valley Medical Center CDBG application.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion. None. There's the reports and administration. Great West can help us with some of it. Tanya's been absolutely on the ball for reports. So
So to answer that, the funds have to officially be administered through Ginger, the clerk here at the city, but the foundation would be working to make sure everything was tidy and that it literally, the money just transfers through the city is my understanding. We will be seeking those.
any other questions? All right.
Aye.
All right. All right, Resolution 607, 2024, a resolution of the Town of Ennis Commission adopting and establishing the mills to be levied in budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. That's all of it.
Did we change out IT with the quote at this point on the budget?
No.
I have a question. Would we, for discussion purposes, like, would we be able to discuss, I guess I guess I've done some correspondence with DIS.
Did I copy the other one for you as well? Didn't I?
Which other one?
First call. So I guess as part, since we're talking IT on it, I think it's a whole discussion on what we've found thus far, because Corey's brought a lot in from DIS. I spoke with them briefly at conference. It was kind of a chaotic madhouse. There was also another company there, First Call, which we haven't looked at any quote there. So I think if we're going to like reprice something out, we need to apples it more. And then like in our original quote, we didn't have the travel rate for anything as well. Corey found that out, and that's at 150. So then I wanted to know what stuff could be on site for what is currently being done, what it has to be on site, and what is just electronic, what can be handled remotely, so that we can calculate in as well.
No, I mean, until we do that, I don't see us approving this budget until we get that that portion resolved.
Okay. So continuation, right, is the right word, Ginger? Is that through a motion, correct? Move to for a continuation?
Do we have to have a motion for that or just not vote?
Continuation. Okay.
Can we ask questions about it?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the total mill levies. It's David with the Madisonian. I guess I tried to crunch this to my limits of my abilities, but it looked to me like the proposed mill totals is going down slightly. Is that right?
So the number of mills that a town can assess is also based on the value of a mill. So as the value of each mill increases, the total number that we may assess goes down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So property got more valuable, so you don't have to have as many mills since that.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that clears it up. Thank you.
Ms. Hirsch, did you have one as well?
Brittany Hirsch. I would like, since it sounds like maybe it's not getting approved, the actual revenues and expenditures in the folder for the evening that we know, so that the public can see what is the actual final budget, not just the mills being levied and such, because they might be in the October 7th or 8th meeting packet, but nothing says final or final proposed, so I don't know exactly
Label
which
it
ones.
as where it's
Yeah.
final proposed
Yes.
or proposed for this date.
And
or,
they change at every meeting, and so anyway, I
Okay.
just, yeah.
Any other comments? All right. School resource officer, the school asked that it still go before the commission, and they would feel more comfortable about a process if it went before the commission as prescribed. So to the two of you.
I guess, well, ultimately, I've not even heard the committee's recommendation because we went to post-emergency meeting. So I've truthfully, I don't think, has anybody heard it? I don't think it's been made a matter of public record.
And I can speak to that. I know what we came up with was 17K was the adjusted value for that contract for the year, is what was our recommendation.
And a 1 year instead of a 3.
A 1 year. Thank you.
And what was signed?
10-1.
10-1.
10-1.
Three was off. 10-3 was offered, the school board changed it.
Yeah, correct.
Is that in the packet, what we
I don't know if it
voted
was.
on?
I don't know if it was.
I won't run without running. I'm not close enough, so. It was the one from It should have been re-included in the packet. It was on whatever, September 12th.
Yeah, correct.
No changes to it since then. So without it in here, you would like it tabled?
No, I think we
Or
should vote on it. So we need a motion. A motion to approve.
I move to approve the school resource officer contract.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Yeah, call the question.
I'm gonna say, me personally, we didn't, I mean, we are discussing it now at this point, but I, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we you guys found that we had $17,000 being the number that should have been used according to your discovery. So, yeah, I think it needs to go back.
did you, sorry, at no point did the committee as a whole then sit down and go through how the numbers were actually calculated?
I think we did. We took last year's salary plus police department, divided it by, was it 2060 hours? We took out the second officer for part of the year. I don't have all those calculations, but I have them somewhere. And it came out to, and then we multiplied it by 605 hours that John said he spent there the previous year, and that's where we got to 17.
Those are the total hours spent there.
Yeah.
And so I asked Officer Moore to break down further, as in his time log as well. And my computer won't come up with it right now. But those also included all lunch hours. You take those out, and I can pull it for you as well. They included the lunch hour there, which you're going to get paid for whether you're sitting there at the school. He included that, but he could sit down at the park and have a picnic as well. So, I think like our numbers were not 100% accurate upon further evaluation of them.
And that may be, but those were the numbers that we had to work with at the time. It was the 605 hours. I think it was 605. It was just over 600.
Correct.
Yeah.
How many school days?
So close to 30% of his time spent.
Is there any way they could speak into the microphone? We can't hear them online.
Do you want to?
It is, but is it not close enough? Sorry.
Ms. Roberts.
Just speaking towards the discussion of the school resource officer, I just want to bring a point of clarity that no one that I have talked to in the community is against having a school resource officer. What is concerning is the fact that the majority of the cost falls onto the taxpayers of the town of Ennis when it should be the district that covers the costs. Moreover, what is also concerning to me as a parent is, according to an October hostile work environment letter filed by the officer John Moore, that was posted to the Google Drive, having an officer that openly admits that their ability to concentrate, make decisions, and interact with colleagues and citizens effectively is impaired. until those issues are addressed, I mean, this officer should have these matters resolved. And as a parent, I have major concerns about someone who says, openly admits that they're impaired in doing their duties. Thank you.
I spoke with the, what's his title? The under sheriff, Craig Schroeder. The other day, he's one of our, they use DIS also for IT services. But just in conversation with him about IT, he also did bring up that they have, they're going to be sending 2 officers to school for school resource officer services.
And I guess the other statement that I have to say about the 17,000 is when I ran that number specifically past the superintendent, Miss Moretti, he said that is the hours that he was there. And I was like, yes, that is where that number comes from, is it is based on hours there. And then the statement was, if the school district is paying for an officer to be for the time that he is there, then that would be time that he is devoted solely to us. And as a single resource, that is not something as a town we can accommodate. He has to be available for call, no matter where he's at, whether it's here at town hall, down at the park, whatever location he is at, he must be available to take call that is dispatched.
There's so many problems with this. If this is the case, why doesn't the school just hire their own SRO? Not worry about the police, where the sheriff could put on a couple of more deputies if the MOU was squared up, and then they could cover the SRO instead of taking our law enforcement out of the community.
Tina Allison. I'm just wondering who determines the number of hours that Chief of Police spends at the school? Who came up with that 600 hours?
It was from, we asked for how many hours that he was there the year prior, and that's what Chief Moore provided to us.
Right. So who said that's what's required of an SRO is to spend 605 hours or whatever it is at the school?
There is nothing in the document that has a requirement. as far as X amount of hours for this amount of pay.
So
It
he,
is as needed, and it was meant to be adaptable to situations.
so then did he
As
decide that? He decided how many hours he would spend at the school and not
as
on?
the administrators ask for officers for like sporting events, it increased over time. I know like homecoming, he was not on duty because we had not agreed to anything there. So the county then was called for the game to be at homecoming. When I have to say, like when we were growing up, we never had an officer at games. And it's sad that we as a society should do that now, but it's being asked for more and more and more.
But you also assigned kids some hours at the school, right?
Yes,
You did.
yes.
Can,
Has the school asked for or outlined?
Sorry.
yeah.
Tony Treglia. So has the school in their request for a resource officer outlined, here's what we need on a daily basis and here's what we need for special events so that they can determine what's overall needed, then you guys can decide whether or not our one resource can accommodate that.
That was, in my mind, part of the negotiation for this contract. It was supposed to be laid out in this contract, exactly what was needed, what was expected from both sides.
And that sounds like that wasn't done.
Not exact, not, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I mean, that being said, it's part of a leveraging tool. If you have 10,100 and 17,000, you or just voted down the budget again. We're trying to reduce it. So if we utilize that as a leverage tool and maybe were to meet in the middle, I think, potentially everyone would be happy. But I think we'd have to go back and renegotiate that to achieve that.
With the hours that weren't there from the start of school till now, and taking out the lunch, the radio programming, the things that were done actually off time, we'll off duty. We will be
So hold on, he's doing the SRO off
not the
duty?
SRO stuff. When he was programming radios, tech, I have all of that here, and I can provide that to you. The breakdown of which areas were not in an SRO function, but assisting with the radio frequencies and setup. Radios was the majority of it, the tech kind of support. We will be very close to the 10,000.
But then the town was paying for his time to get the radios set up.
How was he being IT for the school?
This was not on the time card. This is him volunteering his time. Okay. This is volunteered time. Volunteered time was also included in the 605, which I didn't know when we looked at it.
Tina Allison. Not sure where I'm going to go with this, but there's obviously been a lot of time spent on this and the hours and the money and what he does and what he doesn't do. How much time was spent on what should have been done when you received that hostile workplace letter that screams liability, makes me nervous for the kids, and I don't have kids in the school, still makes me nervous. But we're spending a lot of time on this. What was done with that complaint? And why wasn't he put on leave? Why was he allowed to be around the children, even in our community? I mean, he was definitely not in the mental capacity to. Is it funny?
No,
Because it's
I
not.
am actually need to check with the attorney on what I can say, because I can tell you at this point, I know that I instructed Officer Moore to have a mental evaluation done. And I
Oh,
have the results of that. I have to check. Had we normally had the attorney online, I would say, what may I disclose and what then is personal information? Did I find anything in those findings that would say you need to be relieved of duty? No, I did not. So an evaluation has been done.
but he stated basically he could not perform those duties, but yet he was still allowed to be at the school with guns and yeah, and in our community and
And again, I'm sorry, the discussion
okay,
we're having is on the SRO as a document. I would like to check with the attorney or MMIA or 9 other billion people that would probably be
right,
best suited to give advice in this situation
right.
without the town ensuing a lawsuit or some other negative repercussions for me disclosing information that I can or cannot.
Well, he's been operating for a year and in his own words stating he is not capable of doing his job. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Any other discussion?
No other discussion?
No.
Okay. Corey?
No.
No. It'd probably be to renegotiate that contract or bring to light the updated numbers and then renegotiate.
But he'll still be acting under the liaison policy, right?
Correct.
This liaison policy requires an MOU.
If you read that section correctly, there were 2 parts. There is one when there is a MOU and one when there is not. So we may function under when there is not at this point, which is not, that means no games, no additions, all of those things are not in that policy. That is basically a walkthrough morning.
So you still get to control the hours of the school liaison policy.
Yes.
Okay. That was my question of who dictates John's hours at the school or his boss, which is you, right?
Yes. So we ran the summer schedule up until last week, which is a different schedule than we run school year. There's more weekends in our summer schedule than the school. The school week, when we ran the school one, it was during the school days. was on duty. So we'll readjust again. All right, draft proposal to create part-time position within Public Works Department for administrative position. Do you want to present or?
I mean, let's just make it easy. I don't see the need to actually go through all this where we're creating a position when only some of the time maybe I would need the help. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you this, Eric. And if you need
Yeah.
the help, I'm for getting you the help.
Right.
But when I saw this on the agenda and there was like no like position description, how much we're gonna pay them, hour.
No, that's just the discussion point. It would have to go, a full view of it would have to be discussed on what the council would like to see. And then it's sent to like probably MMIA first for a look over and the attorney. And then back for final approval. After you got MMIA's take on the position, the job requirements,
So what you're saying, what I just heard you say is you don't need the help like full-time or
Right.
or
Correct.
even
At this moment.
part-time permanent.
Right. I mean,
What do you need?
it depends on how much you want to do here, you know, I mean, right now we're down to 2 guys and it's going to be that way till
It's always
April, you know,
Uh-huh.
but we're kind of winding down. So we don't really, we got the lead copper service stuff done. I don't think that we need that position absolutely filled right now. Does that make sense?
Okay, so in your ideal world,
So what I'm saying is if we got to go through all this to create and all this and all that, you guys have a lot of stuff going on and just squash it. If it's that big of a, you know,
well, no, I mean,
I understand what you're saying, John. I kind of agree with you.
other option is for Eric to set specifically what he needs and then see if you can find a contract service to fill or a contractor to fill those requirements.
Right. Nothing, I mean, contracted out would probably be the easiest, simplest. And if don't have that third employee locked down and I don't really plan on it really for the winters,
okay.
you know, I just don't think we need to go through this whole process of assigning and I mean, if that's the way it has to be, then let's just forget it. You guys have a lot of stuff going on. Let's get to work. You know.
Would it mostly be just a paperwork position, or are you looking?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I'm gonna bring up in future agenda items, news media relation position.
Yeah, that's not me.
Well, for the record, it's not Eric. Okay.
Eric, are you the only, you and one other, or you and 2 others?
There's me and one other. We have another worker who's out right now with an injury, due back I don't know when, and leaving in December for 4 months for surgery.
Maybe light duty paperwork is, I mean, MMIA always likes it if you're back doing something.
Yeah, could that person do the admin stuff while he's laid up?
Not a lot of it, no. Not without the licenses and all that.
Sure. I mean, Eric,
He has come in and gone through some files and stuff.
Mhm.
We're keeping him busy, you know.
I see the value in not having you do the admin stuff. Not that you're bad at, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm not the best.
But I see the value in you like chasing water leaks and fixing stuff.
Me too. That's kind of why this was even brought up.
Yeah. And I see the value in somebody helping you with that, but I think we need to flesh that out.
Okay. You know, I get it, but I guess my thing is, I mean, it'll always be this way, you know, so. It's always going to be crunched, really. But how do you,
Remember at a budget meeting, and I'm sorry.
how do you do that? And how do you do that only as needed? You know,
I think that's the contract. You can have a contract
like
for
as
those
needed
duties.
for this project or that one, you know.
Because I think they're like, if all the water stuff goes through and you go through we actually get the whole thing going, then there's land acquisition, all of those items that are those are in his wheel well of starts and finishes and the grants themselves and administration of the grants and the benchmarks in between the reports. It's Ginger and Brenna will, at least she'll be through training. Maybe in the spring conference will help. But maybe contracts it.
So you just want like job description.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we were creating a position, like how I read this when it was like we were creating like a new position.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that's great, but we need a job description. We need how much we're going to pay them. We need hours. We need, all those things.
No, this was more intended as do you want to pursue it and start getting, what would you like to see in it?
Okay.
But
I didn't understand.
But it was going to go to, my full thought is that it would have to go to MI.
I'm not going to explain it the best as I hoped I could.
I didn't understand what you were asking exactly.
You know, it's kind of a tough deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, we could do it too, you know. Can't be that hard.
Is there other work within the town?
Well, and then the idea was a cross training so that you could have backups. So if you could fill the gaps that have been created by just that one little island of each position. So you could cross train between clerk, deputy clerk, city court. So if somebody's out for surgery or something, if they're out for 6 weeks, you have somebody else trained to do at least pinch in for that 6 weeks. Vacation time can actually be used, and you have somebody covering the basis.
So much time for multiple this is what has to be done.
But you're suggesting that it's completely going to be on call, like you're going to,
as needed, yeah. You know, I mean, for me, but that don't mean said person can't start electronically filing the huge Connex or whatever else that needs to be done. You know, I don't know. There's a whole big talk, you know.
Yeah, I guess I'd love to see like a job description and what qualifications the
Okay.
individual needs to have to fulfill your
Okay.
needs.
Well, I mean, then,
Or at least what you need exactly.
all right.
And
Well, that's fine. At
Yeah.
this time, I don't have that.
Okay.
And when I do, I'll get with the mayor and we'll go from there. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Carla Smith, I just have a quick question because we moved kind of fairly quick. The school liaison policy, where can we find that?
That's under the police department and policy.
Okay, and then you said he wasn't at games?
He wasn't at homecoming.
Right. Did I mishear that you said he wasn't attending the games?
I said he wasn't at homecoming. Some games he has been there. It's dependent on what schedule I've put him on.
So he's on right now?
No.
So he's not on town time right now?
No.
Okay. Because he's in uniform at the game.
Is the policy under Ennis Police Department forms? Okay. Before we move off of that, you wanted to see, I want to make sure that if we're doing that, and maybe that's one where we actually just do a work session of what Eric needs, what missing other, like Corey and I had talked about actually creating like a public information officer. We were talking about it at the fire department as well. It's that one, I guess we always do it in incident command system. Whenever there's more stuff to do, you don't want the guy running ops to be trying to tell what's going on at the same time. It gets all scrambled. So we assign like a financial officer and then very specifically public information officer. So you could, and there's a ton of specific trainings to that position. And then you could coordinate in, and maybe that's what we need is this person that's got this. We're going to cross train around. We're going to be the public information point in office, and this is the policy that we're going to follow and who's in charge. And but you see what I'm saying? Maybe we need to look at what other holes that we have that can be filled, and can we identify like in our audit those shortcomings of cross training and find a way. This is going to have to be a very coordinated person, but I think they're out there that can multitask into different departments. So maybe as you find them, just identify our needs, and we can start looking at how other towns fill them. And maybe it's not a full-time. There's also the 90-day option. And maybe that's what Eric needs is
that might be.
Yeah.
is because it doesn't have to be like 90 consecutive days. It is 90 days in a fiscal year.
Is it always during the summer? Could we get it?
You can do it anytime.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily one. You can have multiple 90-day hires. Missoula does it a ton in their park system, parks department. You just have to account for part of their 90 days as training days, and you have to make sure that they have those in there. So.
Yeah, and I would encourage, let's look at interns from MSU. We've been hiring an intern every year for the last 10 years, and we always get smart, bright, articulate kids that can do. I mean, it really gives me hope for the future on some of these kids.
Talking about that for somebody just to grow, to less out, to do more.
I will get the information from MMIA on the 90-day hires and its like requirements and how it works with them. So even if they're full-time, there's no, I mean, they're working 40 hours a week for their 90 days, or they're still not on the insurance plan because it's not the same position as a regular. Does that make sense? That's what I understand from it. What? The 90-day hire? Seasonal. I'm talking specifically about the MMIA's like insurance packet where it's 90 days and that's how you do it. Okay. 90 days, that's it. And they can be 3-hour days or they can be 10-hour days or 12-hour days. But not to exceed 90. And then, because then it becomes a position or an actual employee attachment. So there's something specific in there about that. Okay.
But that also includes exploring interns.
All right, commission reports.
Go ahead, Corey.
I honestly don't have that much other than I think that needs to be priority. Number one, that we have a news media relations position. I just think it looks good from a standpoint of a message coming from the community or from the town of Ennis. Yeah, I can't stress the importance on that. I think it's so important. You know, I did do a couple of news interviews the other day, which, you know, it is what it is, but we need to get the I guess call it the State of the Union out there. They need to know what's going on with the town versus allowing rumor mill or Facebook page, somebody's personal Facebook page dictating what their rhetoric is. We need an actual like document, like a tangible document that people can place their hands on and read that states what's happening. That's all I got. Thank you.
I just wonder why you were running the camera just on the phone.
That was intentional.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? So we're saying, as you're good, as a member of the media, David with the Madisonian, so you're saying that into the new budget, there would be a line item that would pay for a media relations person?
I guess my thought on it is start with at least a policy and procedure and how we're going to do it. I'll talk about my town commission Google Calendar and still trying to kind of figure that out as part of that. Start with at least how we're going to implement it. And then if we need to work it into a position, I think we need to figure out what that hours are, how much we need. Are we posting every day? There's a mayor in Montana that literally posts pretty much every day, and it's everything from like the coffee shop's coffee thing is broke down to the fire trucks are going this way to garbage is off a rotation on their Facebook thing. But then there's complaints in that town that they can't discern mayors from the cities. So how do you solve those problems a little bit? And so I've been looking at some of the apps to do so as well.
Because I've seen it happen where you have a spokesperson for the mayor, maybe, but all of you would have to come together to agree on some statement. So when would that happen? Because you can't meet.
Exactly.
you'd have to call executive session to write a press release, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and there's been other comments about the media tonight. I hope to think that the Madisonian's doing a different and better job than the television stations in Bozeman. At least that's what I aspire to. So thank you.
I didn't send it out on listserv, but I think that's what next has to happen. I think the next thing is to send that out on listserv. I think the next step is like send it out on listserv, like who's got at least a policy and who does it and how they do it.
Yeah, I think we just need a policy. We don't need to recreate the wheel.
Yeah, somebody's got to have it, right?
Somebody's got to have it. Let's just.
I'm just afraid it's Billings. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
They're just bigger.
We don't need to recreate the wheel. Let's just adopt this policy so we have guidelines, and then we know what's in and outside those guidelines. Because without those, it's a free for all out there.
Okay. Anything else in your report?
Oh yeah, I met with my good friend Rachel Meredith, and we talked about there's in code there is where the state does a organizational audit on towns, much like the legislative audit that I just lived through. And we decided to hold off on doing that for Ennis because of the local government review happening this year. We could have, we talked about kicking that off at the state level for Ennis, but with the local government review, we hope they accomplish the same things as what the state would come in and find. But she hooked me up with, and Rachel and I are meeting with Kelly Lynch here this next week up in Helena, to talk about other ways to streamline and fix organizations, municipality organizations. So that's what I've been up to.
Okay. Streamline fix.
Just make them efficient, make them run like a business.
Okay. All right. So still in contact with the Department of Commerce, working on the HB 819. We got all of our supporting documents that they needed to finalize the contract done. So for next month, department should have a contract for execution of 819. Okay. The next one that we're working on that will go before your review is the architectural. Colette is working on that at Great West to start proceeding because our ARPA funds have to be used by the end of 2025. And so the plan was to use those funds for the original architectural plan for the well site and the storage facility. So she will have those documents in a presentation ready for you in November. The floodplain, that was probably my most time consuming, just trying to understand and grasp and get us on a right timeline that will meet the federal standards, FEMA standards. And again, call Kevin if you have questions. And Shilea is also amazing at DNRC. And Cody, because she was at Great West. So if you need resources, please reach out because they're overwhelming. Next was attended the league conference. The highlights there were Cam Sholey. He runs what Kelly Lynch is now deeming Yellowstone National City because of his whole speech and how much infrastructure is actually involved in the park. So it was a different view of the park for me as a municipal. I'd never looked at it like a municipal chunk. So everything from COVID and multiple governors in a territory, and then goes through the recovery kind of plan for that. And then on to 2022 when the floods happened. And that's when it hit me, the infrastructure correlation to that. And talked about the ties and creating those ahead of time so that when your water and sewer and roads all go away in a night, you have people to talk to ahead of time. And then the next keynote was Clarence Anthony of the National League of Towns, of Cities and Towns. And then we broke into workshops as well. The workshops that I attended, just like at Susie's conference, there were way too many tracks at the same time, and it's kind of unfortunately that we didn't get all of the information. So I chose affordable housing because it also doubled as a public hearing for Department of Commerce for seeking for additional funding for basically cleaning up zoning in the next 4 years, creating a hub center for zoning in which there's like a drop down menu of how you can start to piece things together to help the smaller towns, because zoning reform is kind of cumbersome and very financially burdening because you have, it's a task, it's a chunk, it's a big piece. So their overall goal is to create, with this funding, a drop down menu to create more affordable housing by cleaning up some of the older zoning regulations and subdivision regulations throughout the state. So attended that hearing. And then the next one was Thomas Jodane's presentation on law enforcement and municipality requirements and funding requirements, or possibilities, not requirements, on how to do that. And then I went to the vendors, talked with DIS briefly, also On Call, which is another tech company out of, can't remember where they're out of. They do Hamilton's, City of Hamilton's technology as well. And then went through to all the engineering companies that were there because we're still in our request for proposal. We have not received, as of the planning board meeting last Tuesday that I attended, we've only received one letter of interest from what? We finally, oh, I was in a slight panic because our request for a proposal, there was only one letter of interest submitted at that point. So it's a pretty easy selection, but no. So I went to all the booths that had engineering professionals that do growth policies and asked them to submit letters of interest for that request so we can get that out to them. And then Department of Commerce there, Gus showed us maps that they're available and he can produce for us for the planning board and for the growth policy. There's one out here and they can break it down. 10 seconds. Let me show you because it's a visual awesomeness of Gus. So Department of Commerce can help us and produce these at no charge. So that one is actually a density map so that you can help create, so it plots out when buildings were created and then what year, and then and it groups it by like decades so you can actually kind of see where your projected growth is going to be. And on that map, you can also see all the striation area is our conservation easements. So with those in mind, in the current pattern of the red dots, you can project where the rest of your growth is probably going to be as far as fill-in. So that's going to affect basically the growth policy. You can say this is the area that we're projecting and what are we going to allow for density there. And so that was pretty much conference in a nutshell. other than talking with the engineers about our upcoming projects. Oh, and Mr. Tester was at our lunch at the last day. I kind of forgot the last day altogether. So presentation from him and I can't remember the Lima mayor's name at the moment, but he received an award for lifetime achievement as he's been mayor for 30 something years in Lima. I think that was pretty much it, other than speaking with Mr. Guza Monday. Oh, the Google Calendar. That's the other thing. So at conference, they also give you this really cool calendar from the league and MMIA, and it's got all of their calendar events on it as to deadlines for clerks, MMIA's quarterly insurance, when all of it's due. So then I was like, hey, you guys are like, when is that? We had those just budget discussions on when everything is due. So I had John create what's now the town commission calendar, and I'm going to try and import everything from MMIA and the league onto there. Is that, you guys got this email? Okay. And then all the town stuff. And so my thought for right now is just town business. So any of the encroachment permits and special user agreements would go on there as well, so that we know when town is filming the Madison, because we have the permit in and that's can be marked on the calendar. The 4th of July would be on there, TAP would be into there, the shed horn sale, all those things that require those would be on there as well. Any road closures could be on there then, so we know. And then if you sign up for it, it should activate in your email anytime there's something added to the calendar, is the idea. A thought.
Yeah. Kind of a good idea. Yeah.
There should, I think MMIAs and the leagues are in a Google Calendar format, so I can just integrate them straight in. But that's, then you know when the health insurance evaluation is. It's like all there. It's already laid out for the next year.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay. So that's, oh, and then I started my 6-week MSU course, the fundamentals of municipality. Started yesterday. That's where I'm at. All right, anything for, oh, so we will have a meeting next Thursday, correct? That's what I said. No. Appointment. So the letters of interest for the commission seats have 30 days to be filled. So the first one must be filled before our regular 30th meeting, or our public hearing. So we'd have to do an appointment next Thursday to meet that requirement.
Is that the only one that has a 30-day?
Each position has 30 days, but you have 30 days from each one, but you have to notice each one. So Ginger put in the paper for each position and the deadlines today.
You're talking Thursday, the 24th.
Didn't you? You're out this Thursday, right?
Yeah, I'm gone starting tomorrow.
It's next Thursday.
The deadline's
Okay, maybe that's.
So what are we having a meeting or are we not?
Well, the deadline's out to the 30th.
Oh, the deadline to apply, you mean? Oh, then why would we?
Yeah, no. I think you're okay.
Okay,
She's got her dates.
that's fine.
It's right here.
Sounds like you really need that Google Calendar.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah, we can't do anything till it closes, right?
Yeah, it has to be open for 30 days for people to submit their letters of intent.
Okay,
Right? Yes.
I think
And
so.
then you interview.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 weeks from the vacancy. 2 weeks. Well, right, no, 30 days from the vacancy,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. To
Total.
submit your letter of intent, or do you have to appoint?
I think appointed. That's what Guza said the other day. So,
27. And the first one, is it going to be in the paper tomorrow? For the deadline of the 30th?
I don't know. I don't know about the public notice. I just know what I wrote. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put that.
I mean, it's not also committed to appoint. It's
In-
just on the paper.
It would have to be publicly noticed. So whatever that takes to get it into the paper, if you guys are, what your cycle is.
So
No, it's
we
for
don't
the
have to be
28th.
next Thursday.
No.
Just,
I'm double checking. I have to
Okay.
call Ed.
While we're on this, on record, is anyone here in this room planning to be? Are there any interested parties in this room? So I'm wondering where these folks are going to come from. No one's ready to raise their hand? No? Okay.
Okay.
We have a lot of out of town residents in here. So they can't, yeah. I mean, one couple, 2, 3, 4. Don't have many. 2 of them are doing local government review, so they don't qualify.
Myron.
People who know these issues.
Oh. So the Voice of Montana radio station is also doing a piece on, they're following local government review in the process. So I did a quick interview saying it's cool that everybody's doing it. And if you'd like to reach out after your election, since we didn't cancel the election, you'll be on it. And then an appointment will have to be made for the 3rd spot here. But they're really excited to see the process and ask you guys questions as to how it works.
I think there's a training in December 12th, so we'll probably know more after that.
Then we have the unscheduled matters.
That's what I asked.
Yeah, ultimately just I think we have that as priority number 1, the information policy and plan. And then talking to the auditor, if that's a possibility, if we can. I don't know. No, I guess we don't have one assigned actually right now, do we?
Are you still looking for quotes?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. Information policy and plan, how we handle information. Like our Facebook, our social media.
One day off.
Phone call from the news.
I'll have to figure that out. I'll call it. Okay. Now?
Move to adjourn.
what was that?
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, I second that.
Hi. I'll see you. You guys are drinking? Yeah. They're to commit crimes.
But did you get everything I sent you?
I did, thank you. Yeah, I actually looked at the wall in person. Make sure I had the dates right. So I hope we got it right. Stride.
How are you?
All right, have a good.
David, we met one time. Tony Tremblay lured me in.
Oh, did I come to see you? You were me. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Well, you're welcome. I'm sitting in a little cabin right now. 3 to 2. Bottom of the 6th. Oh, what is it? 3 to 2. Who's right? That's what I said. Oh, I didn't understand your hand signal. They went up 3-0. Indians had bases loaded, no outs. So Yankees are up. All right. Bottom of the 6th.
How does it come out? I wonder if they can do my mouth for me. I don't know if they can, but just call that at any point. You can. I'm like, yeah, just there. Of just town.
How do you order these shapes?
So, or the 1 mile. So yours goes backside, and then this one goes here, and this one goes here, and each we don't have football. So I met the other girl from the department, Kayla, or something like that, or I think there's a little one. She's going to help back for go through some documentation. That's the other thing I didn't tell you. So we're working with Joe Campbell and Joey Rogers to identify
Sort of a temporary traveling clerk.
So once we identify exactly what we want them to do, then Thomas will prepare the contract.
Okay.
So that's the other one that I'm working on. But anyway, she's gonna go to Virginia City and help that clerk over there, go paperwork, historical stuff, and then she's gonna go. A lot of our planners, just so you know, you kind of start, you can grow into it. right